Something overwhelming about eternity. Eternity. It goes on and on and on. And if you don't know what your eternity looks like, shouldn't you figure it out, or at least try to? How far would you go to find the answers? How far would you go to ask the right questions? Please join me on my journey. Hi guys. So I like to break my journey into 4 sections. Yes, there's a lot of slow motion walking involved usually. Sorry for that. But you see how the music is building? I like to call that the stage of discovery, the stage of setting out. I'm slowly getting a feel of the journey. Now you see my journey is picking up. It's getting into a rhythm. I'm getting familiar with my surroundings. And then all of a sudden, sometimes, if you're lucky, you get to say something beautiful. In this case, it's a canyon. That stage is called discovery. Has a lot of repeating notes. Those are called delays or echoes. So you play one note and it keeps going again and again and again. See, sometimes when you take a step in life or a decision in life, those ripples keep going on again and again. So every journey, every step that you take, those ripples are felt much later. That's what I think when I play delays in a setting like this. Yeah, now I'm enjoying my discovery. But not all journeys are pleasant. Sometimes there are uncertainties. Do you hear that odd note? Yeah, not everything's pleasant. But then you gotta keep pushing, gotta keep going. And if you're lucky, you're gonna end up at a gate that might lead to something new. Well, what was stage 1? Setting out. Let's see, 2015, what I thought was my time of setting out. Yup, that's not when I set out. 2015, leather jackets were mandatory back then. And I thought, I wrote a song about the meaning of life, there being more to life, but I was just a baby, a kid who didn't really experience loss or, like they say, heartbreak or whatever. And I was writing about the meaning of life sitting in my room. And immediately after this recording, after the shoot, the next day I went back to my office to log in and continue that day-to-day. 2 years later. Yeah, that's melodrama again, sorry, but this is right outside my office. I am trying to decide between a career or in corporate versus just setting out and exploring my gifts. The guy who shot this, Teja, he's like, "Soba, you're so indecisive." So I'm gonna add a lot of grain and shake to your video. I guess that's his logic. Anyway, after a lot of back and forths, I decided to let go of that comfortable, maybe slightly budding career and decided to take a plunge into the unknown. so that I can explore music, ministry, and see what are the gifts I have that I can maybe grow into something bigger. Yeah, I made a music video for pretty much every stage of my life. Not all of them are out, thankfully. I would like to take you through another journey. This was a little later into my journey. I mean, okay. Again, forgive the melodrama. So I use my own heartbeat for this part. I did end up in the hospital recording my heartbeat. Just a journey. See if you can retrace all those steps. Okay, these are the shepherds. They're talking about next days, how to get the milk for the people. Lucky when the golden hour hits. And then I set out on my journey again. Because I got to get to the top of the mountain, right? Can I explain this for a bit? I used my heartbeat in the beginning of this so that I could somehow maybe get to creatively ask my audiences, what does your heart beat for? What are you passionate about? You see, I'm climbing a mountain. When I get to the top of the mountain, is that all? I see another 1,000 mountains out there. When is this pursuit? When is this climb gonna end? What I'm chasing after, is it something that lasts? Or is it something that has like a temporary high and then you get back into the climb and try and pursue something else? So this is what I use sometimes in my travels. When I talk to people, I try to question what are they chasing after. I sometimes set up headphones in backpacker hostels, invite people to listen to my music, and sometimes those conversations lead to bigger existential questions. I felt like I had to take this a little around the country, so me and my friend, we decided we would drive around the country, and we're introverts, okay, and we don't even speak great Hindi. But for some reason, we thought driving around the country and asking people the meaning of life was the best way to go about it. You remember that teaser, that 2015 Leather Jacket Wala song? Now that started to make sense, going out there exploring. So if you could cue that. Thank you. It was nice to play rhythm guitar for that lead guitarist from, I don't know, 2015. I wonder what kind of a conversation we might have with all these years between us. Hey, Soba, have you really explored the meaning of life? Have you found what you're looking for? Have you encouraged people to search? Wasn't that what you were after? Well, I did learn a lot of things. I think if I had that conversation with him, I would talk about, hey, yeah, you need to set out. Sometimes losing a dad might, change so many things. Perspective shifts are huge for things like that. There's a pandemic. What does that do to you? Anyway, there's something else that stood out in that journey for me, though. This was, I think, we went around the country for 40 days. Some of those visuals, yeah, this one. I don't know why I was resting my hand on the hump of the camel. Anyway, the towel on my neck. Forgive the filminess, but thanks. Yeah, so we were, like I said, introverts going around India asking in our broken Hindi, hey, what's the meaning of life? How are you finding purpose? What brings you joy? And we decided to do all that to this guy in our, yeah. You've heard my Hindi, anyone? No? Okay. Let's keep it that way. Let's keep it that way. Yeah. So I asked him, how do you find meaning? What brings you happiness? What are you chasing after? Dude was like, hello, we're off season. We don't have tourists coming in, so we need to find ways to get food for our family. That's our top priority, not the, what was that, meaning of life? No, not that. We need to get enough food. You know, that's when me and my videographer friend, that's when we realized how privileged we are. Okay, forget forget the headspace to think about the meaning of life, but I actually have a videographer following me all around the country while I'm asking people this question. That's so much privilege. And not many have the privilege to think about these questions. Not many have the privilege to, think what comes after life. What comes, is there God? Is there some value to faith? The ability to think that itself is a privilege. So my next question, not to you, to myself, is how do I create that privilege? How can I get people into that headspace of, of being able to think about those bigger questions? Okay, let's see if we can. Now the story I'm going to say is an experience that I had in a prison camp in Uganda, and we were traveling with a couple of missionary artists. That guy over there, he's in for 12 years. He's playing Joel's guitar. Thank you, Joel, for that guitar. But he made his own guitar, and he was pretty impressive. Anyway, we did a whole show. We had a couple of artists. But before that, now I have nothing against traditional preaching. I think sometimes that just gets to your soul, that convicts you so much. But the preaching that was happening that day in the prison camp, for some reason, was not getting through to the prisoners. There were like 400 of them or something. And I think 2 preachers preached, and it felt like it was falling flat. Obviously, I don't know if something changed inside or whatever, but it looked like it was falling flat. So then we presented the gospel. We used, if I remember currently, we had a 63-year-old vet who was a circus artist. So he plays with cubes and with silks. He sets his poles, and then he climbs and he dances to that, and then he shares his testimony. Then we had a painter from Ukraine. She paints about the war. Back then there was another smaller crisis in Ukraine, not the current Russian one, and how God brings peace. And then we had a fire breather and an illusionist, and we had dance and musicians. And so we presented the gospel from different angles, not just one angle, but I think 40 minutes of sharing the gospel through different arts. I did my whole mountain thing, but it was a prison, no projectors and all, so I was playing, actually miming some of it, and then talking through the whole thing. Hey, now you're going to hear a stream come in, now you're going to hear the sheep, and all those prisoners, poor guys who are locked in for their life, they're looking with their mouths open. What is this guy tempting us with? We are stuck here. Doesn't he know that? Does he really have to torture us with all this? However, at the end of this, when we said if anybody wanted to, accept Christ or say the prayer, 39 people came forward. Now, more than anything, that was the validation that we needed, that art can sort of directly break through barriers that conventional methods of preaching may not sometimes. Art is like this might sound like a tagline, but art is like a direct way to the heart. No, we need theology, we need sound doctrine, we need our brain to be in the right place. I'm not denying all of that. When we go on trips like this, we try to tie up with pastors who have, like solid churches there who can actually guide them after we've gotten to their heart, can guide their minds as well. But main point being, if you're creative, if you have a gift, and you could use that to actually get to someone's heart and bypass that, all those questions that can trouble an existential thinker. I think your art has that power. Now, Okay, I'm so confident about my art, right? About what I did in Uganda and how 39 people responded. Now, this is a village in Albania, it's an Islam-Muslim country. And we set up our stage and all that. And the audiences are just those people in the corner over there. And I, in the confidence of my Ugandan outing with my heartbeat and all that, started doing the same thing. It went on for a torturous, I don't know how long I spoke about everything. And no one really responded, no one cared at that point. And the feedback I got that day was like, dude, you're talking too much. I sometimes do that, but this was hurtful. So my art, as highly as I think of it, may not always function properly. And in this case, it didn't. So then comes the next thing that I'd like to talk about. This is actually something a missionary street performer called Philip Sori spoke about. He says, he wrote a book called Kill Your Art, or, to let your art die. Sometimes you need to let go of your art, of that pride you have in your art, and do what is necessary for the gospel to get through. So I didn't perform that heartbeat thing again in this whole tour. Over here, ended up spending a few days in the basement of wherever I was staying. And we had, this is a ballerina from the US. It's a very bad screenshot, forgive me. Like, there's another ballerina on the other side, and there's also a painter. So together we created like a conglomerate piece where we are using music and working with each other to talk about, the painter is from Ukraine, so we are focusing on how God can bring peace. In spite of that war in her country, she's coming and sharing the gospel. There definitely has got to be something of high value, right, if she's going to do that. Well, something was birthed this day. This was in a village in Albania which didn't have any known believers. There was a lot of heckling, and this performance was actually a disaster too, by the way. We end this performance with a song. I ended up singing, and it was so I'm not the best singer, let's admit that. But we tweaked it over days. And then now this piece, whatever it is, if I could move to the next, it's not just, even when I'm not there, these artists are using it in other places. This is in Turkey. They're just playing that piece and then talking about God's peace. So I let go of my art, or maybe I was forced to let go. I did get bad feedback, but when you let your art die, maybe for the right reasons, sometimes it can give birth to something new. Even yesterday, while me, Stephen Nishira, and James Pranay, when we were trying to get some of the edits ready, I was like, dude, I don't know if we're going to get it ready in time. It might be a big mess up. But then the kill your art thing was also there in my mind. What am I holding on to? Is it the pride of a good performance? What if whatever you do is going to, sow a seed somewhere and it's going to birth something new? So after all this, lesson number 2, I guess, or my learning is sometimes you got to kill your art. One, that art can get through to the heart, but sometimes you also need to kill your art. You need to let all that you hold precious about your art, you need to put that at the feet of Jesus and see what he can do with it. Yeah, that's all I got to share. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah.